Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host Tony Cañas, switching to my radio voice, and today I have with me Jess Dantice, founder and CEO at Zenjuries. Jess, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going great. Yeah, thank you for having me. I love it.
Fantastic. And according to your LinkedIn, you are in the Greenville, South Carolina area. So,
Yes, I really actually appreciate you saying that in the beginning here because I try to enunciate, but I was raised down here in the South and we tend to draw our words out. So I'm going to really try to speak out here today since we're on a podcast.
I can definitely feel your southern accent, but it is not one of the worst by any stretch of the imagination. I've spent the last few years of my life in Atlanta, Georgia,
Oh, yeah.
and Atlanta itself's not too bad, but you get like 20 minutes out of Atlanta, and all of a sudden I can't understand a word people are saying.
Well,
Um,
it's funny you would say that because I actually started my life in Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. So I was on those outskirts, and we understood each other well. But most people talking to us from the outside didn't understand a word we were saying, if they were still awake when we finished our sentence.
May That's fantastic. So we are recording on May 15th, 2023, and I can only assume that South Carolina is about 110 degrees already and
Yeah,
100% humidity.
in about 2 or 3 more weeks, you're going to sweat when you blink when you're outside. But right now, it's still not that bad yet.
Okay, okay, awesome. So we always give the guest a chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Zenjuries?
You know, I always hope when people ask me that it's a really long elevator ride, but I'll try to make it like a short elevator
You
ride.
can take as much time as you want to.
Well, Zenjuries is a platform. It's an app, and it was born out of the trenches of necessity. I used to be in the retail work comp space as an agent for forever, and I spent 20 years selling work comp. Had my own agency. Was with my family agency before that with my uncle, and he sold his agency to BB&T. It was one of the first real acquiring agencies. And then I started my own agency not long after that, and just really had a hyper focus of work comp and commercial. And as life would have it, we were good at work comp, but the problem with work comp was holistic. It was really hard to connect the dots during claims processes more than anything else. So we wrote a lot of it, and then when these clients who actually become your friends go to use it, a lot of times the pros that they count on disappear. We hand them over to a case loaded adjuster hoping things are going to go good. And guess what? They didn't go good. And so it used to drive me crazy. It'd keep me up at night. And one day, a long story short, I had an epiphany that a lot of this it could be held together through some simple automations, some workflows that if there was an app, that people could just pull out their phone and make it very user friendly, maybe just maybe there'd be some better results and certainly better user experiences. But that's what we set out to create, and we had kind of three purposes with that of what we felt like were the biggest clogged arteries in the work comp heart. We wanted to unclog those. And so that's what Zenjuries was all about, and the results have been fantastic.
Okay, fantastic. Fix the biggest clogged arteries in the work comp claims process. Okay, perfect. Uh, it looks like, according to your LinkedIn, you've been running Centuries for almost 9 years, 8.5 years. And then for the last 3 years, you're also showing as a CEO and founder of Zenployers. So, number one, well, let's start with what is Zenployers?
So Zenjuries in and of itself is a licensable uh, application. It's an online app and it's a mobile app, and we can license it to any work comp entity that wants to have better user experiences that result in better work comp loss costs. And I can get into that later if you'd like, but it's a big, big differentiator. It's kind of like the biggest problem in my view back in the day was the old haunting definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I was like, oh, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. So we introduced this little app, and it has a huge, it really does differentiate. It's something new that really moves the needle, but more than that, it gives a user a brand new, colorful experience where it's not so dimly viewed in the work comp marketplace when you have to go have a claim. And so it helps so many different people instantly in like this plug and play readiness. So we have that side of it, but the other side of it, that part is kind of uncontrollable, because you're waiting on MGAs to come out of their work comp coma, and you're waiting on carriers to come out of their ivory towers and talk to the common folk, and you're waiting on, people that specialize in work comp to agree that the work comp system in and of itself is very outdated and nobody really loves it yet. So while you're waiting, we kind of created our own digital platform called Zenployers, where we had this idea that if we could spin up a digital brokerage online, that we could deliver that direct to users, and so have a little bit of a say so in getting the product out there faster. And the problem with that is when we first started it 3 years ago, like you said, you still don't really have the pen. The underwriting pen's not in your hand. If you don't have the underwriting pen, you just still have all the minutia of just getting a simple work comp quote. And so for that reason, we kind of paused it. And in the future, though, don't be surprised if you see employers pop up as its own MGA with the underwriting pen. And at that point, it's going to be a big deal in the work comp space, because
Okay,
then
so
we can attach Zenjuries at the point of sale.
okay, so for now, let's focus on Zenjuries. Okay, so you're happy to let other carriers use Zenjuries. So what does the app do? How does it help both the process be better and also lower my claims expenses?
I love it. So first of all, thank you for asking that. Okay. And second of all, so if you think about it from my perspective, and honestly from anybody's perspective in workers' compensation, I don't care what role you play in the work comp process. If you're in the work comp system at all, whether it's a broker, a safety manager, an HR person, an adjuster, a OC health provider, there is just a problem working together. Everybody might be good in their own four walls, but they're not. But let's assume they were. You're just getting the best of the best. You're still disconnected. And to get together is like a small act of God these days, because nobody's got all these wasted time on their hand. Everybody's busy, so it becomes harder and harder to get together for just the most simplest of conversations. So those three clogged arteries I was talking about, to me, it kind of was this epiphany of, here's the three clogged arteries in the work comp heart. And this is why it doesn't pump very good. Number one, it's just too disconnected before it ever starts. They all say, it's funny, I don't know who's read what, but everybody acts like they've all read every book in the world if you're a business person. And so most people have read or claim they've read Good to Great. All right. So getting all the right people in the right places helps an organization excel. And I agree with that. And if you think about that in terms of work comp, that's the exact opposite of what happens in work comp. Nobody's in the right positions, and most of the people that are in a position have no idea what they're going to do when there's a claim. We just sell a policy with a hotline number attached to it and maybe a claim intake email and think, well, good luck, and it's like, oh, that's crazy. Who would do that? And that's what we do. So that's the first clogged artery. The second clogged artery, and this is like a running cocktail joke. But I remember this was decades ago now. Like, this was probably 20 years ago. I think it was NCCI, maybe Hartford, but there was a study done about the adverse effects of lag time reporting. And so prompt reporting of claims is inarguably one of the biggest problems in work comp history, and it's kind of like they put this report out there that lag time reporting alone can increase the cost of claims as much as 47%. And everybody's like, golly, boy, somebody should fix that, And then we all just went on our way for 20 years and nothing changed. And to this day, most people have some sort of 800 number or, a claim intake online. And that's it. And so it's a very, very confusing system for the users, because the policyholders, first of all, they're already distrusting. Before it ever starts, they're thinking, how do I sweep this under the rug so my rates don't go up and my EMOD doesn't go up? And, I got all these attorneys chirping in their ear about, oh, if you've been hurt at work, so they're preying on the employee. And so it's just a disaster. And most people, even if they have good intentions, don't report fast. And so you're already starting in a losing position by not engaging the pros. And so we found a way to overcome that. And in Zenjuries, we get over 90% of our claims in the first 4 hours. Well, how is that possible? I'll tell you later. And the third clogged artery is the ongoing communicating and collaborating. Okay, so let's just say you do have a team all set up and it's connected, it's ready to go, and you report claims lightning fast. Well, now what? Where does the policyholder participate? Where are they invited to come play? Nowhere. And I used to do this. This was part of my sales pitch. And I would ask policyholders, and whoever's listening to this, I dare you to try it because I've only gotten one of three answers ever. And so if you ever do get an answer outside of what I'm about to tell you, email me and I'll send you a t-shirt or something. So here's the three answers. If you ask a policyholder, what do you use when you need to go through the work comp claims process? What are you managing your own claims with? They'll say, hey, I'm one of the best managers in the world. I use this Excel file I'm writing and keeping notes on. You're like, oh, wow, that's incredible. So that's one. And that really is like the 2%ers. And the problem with that is only one person's really benefiting from that. And it's all, static information. It's not, it's not like we're all participating. The second one is they'll look at you and be like, this right here. I've got this manila folder and all these sticky notes. You wouldn't believe, it looks awful, but I'm telling you, you wouldn't believe how organized this is. And then the third one is nothing. Hey, Tony, I'm using nothing. What do you expect me to do? I mean, you're my agent. You do it. I bought it from you. You fix it. And that's the three answers. And it's like, no. This is your work comp. That's your employee. That's your EMOD. That's your premium. You need to participate. So we gave them a platform. And it's not a portal. It's a platform. It's an ecosystem. And we call it the tree of communication because it's just like loss runs on steroids that have come to life and run amok in a beautiful way. And so everybody participates in a well choreographed dance all the way through every work comp claim. And not only can you get the full robust version online, you can pull out your cell phone and do this from anywhere. And so if you can use two thumbs and speak to text, you're going to get an experience you always wished you could get. And that's one of the keys to success because most people, they don't have time to go tether to a computer. That's why it's so disconnected. Nobody's got time for all that. But if you get on their phone, I mean, think about your own phone for a minute. I'm sure there's only really two kinds of apps. One, they're tools, like your compass and your maps. Maybe not compass. I'm just aged myself. Let's cut that out. Okay, you got your maps, you got your flashlight, you got these tools. Then the other one is just fun stuff, Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of fun stuff. But anyway, the point of that, if you're on somebody's phone, it's game over. I mean, you have really, truly just ingrained yourself into their personal life. And once they're in that mode, they don't want that taken away. They really enjoy that user experience. And for me, that was the beginning of the aha moment. It's like, why is there no app for this? And when I went to the App Store on Google Play and iTunes, the only work comp app that popped up when I put in workers' comp was about 1,000,000 attorneys 800 numbers. And I was like, no wonder everybody hates it so bad. It's like, this is ridiculous. A bunch of golden hooks in here. No wonder everybody's so scared of it. So that was the three main arteries that we unclogged. The result was this: when I had my own personal agency, we were trying to manhandle a work comp book of business to just get it under a 50% loss ratio. And we were throwing all the flesh and blood we had at it. And we still just couldn't, and there's a lot of contractors. We really couldn't get it below that 50 sustainably. And so when we put in our app and introduced it to our clients, our policyholders, we went from about a 54% loss ratio over a 5-year period to a 9.36 in the first 12 months.
Hold on. I don't think I heard those numbers right.
No, I think you did.
You went from what to what?
We went from the mid 50s to a 9.36 in 12 months. But what's crazy about that is we weren't trying to move the needle like that. We were just trying to give them a better user experience. The byproduct was a way better loss cost. And you know why? Because in that broken, clogged artery work comp system, which still exists everywhere today, there's a lot of fat, a lot of fluff, and a lot of waste in every single claim because there's not a lot of really good communication. So people are just flying blind out here. And it's ridiculous that we accept that as okay, and then we live with the results for 4 years on the mod. It's like, no, and here's the thing about work comp too that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people probably listening to your podcast are work comp pros. There's some sort of profession in the work comp space. A lot of those people know what to do, when to do, how to do, who to do it with. But the people that use work comp, they don't have a freaking clue. They don't know what to do, when to do, how to do, who to do it with, and all that kind of stuff. So the people that know what to do can only influence a claim with all their might, maybe at the most about 30%. The other 70% lies with the employer and the employee. And what they do and what they don't do will influence the remainder of that 70% of that fat, fluff, and waste. And so they need guidance, and they need it fast. They need instant gratification, and it better not look like work or they're not going to do it. And that's part of our success too. We make it look really friendly.
All right. So okay. So let's start with the carriers. Okay, so if I am a work comp carrier, which means almost any commercial lines carrier, even more if I am a work comp specialist, like employers or Memic or right whoever else, um, it's kind of a no-brainer, or it sounds like a no-brainer, like what part of what I do in my day job is I help insurtechs find salespeople. I help them find a bunch of different things, but salespeople is one of them. I can only imagine calling one of the insurtech salespeople I know and say, hey, I have a job for you. Basically, you're going to be calling carriers and telling them, I can lower your work on loss ratio to a fourth or a fifth of what it used to be. That's an incredible proposition. Okay, so for the carriers, how does it work for them? How does it integrate into their systems? What's the pricing model? Let's start there.
Man, such good questions. All right, so here's what's crazy. It's like we have been, and you know this, the insurtech space. I mean, so in the beginning, most people were, it was kind of like everybody drew lines and were like, all right, are we friends or are we enemies? Like, are you going to work with me or are you trying to replace me? And so there was a lot of that feeling out process 5 years ago that's finally kind of settled down a little bit, and it's kind of looked like, hey, it's better to work together. Nobody's trying to replace anybody anymore. All that bravado has left, and so that's good. I think that's a good thing. The dust settled a little bit. So for the carriers, there's still a problem with a lot of the carriers, and that is, they move at glacial speed. That's the fast ones, and they have 14 boards that have to approve something before you can get through to their pipeline that's about 18 months in backlog. So they have an intrinsic problem of, kind of getting things implemented quickly. So we had to make a decision. Like, we have obviously universal APIs that make it very easy for any carrier just to grab it and plug in. It's very rudimentary. The beautiful thing about ours too is like it can be very robust, so it doesn't have to be rudimentary. We just did that to make it simple in the beginning, but you can also start cherry picking, like, oh, if you're gonna integrate the adjuster notes, you're gonna integrate the claim cost back and forth. Why not integrate the appointment setting? Why not integrate, this and that? We can do that in a heartbeat. But the other part of that is we had to introduce a version that no integrations required. You don't need to integrate one single thing. Now, I don't think that's the best way, but it's still like when we had that huge drop, there was zero integration. Like, we didn't have to be integrated because a lot of it's just good old-fashioned blue-collar hard work. Somebody has to do the right things at the right time to get those better results. It's really that simple. So the integration's great because you can document what happened, but it's not dependent on making us successful. So we can introduce a version that has zero integration and still move those numbers significantly. Now, one thing about this is, like, if we take the numbers and set those aside, That's really not the most beautiful thing about what we do, even though you think in the terms of law of large numbers, that's pretty beautiful. However, it's really all about the user experience. That's kind of how we started this. Is like all we really wanted to do was number one, fight for the heart of the employee because the attorneys are doing it. Why aren't we doing it? When's the last time you saw a commercial from an insurance carrier that says, that's just not true? We love you too. You don't have to go running to them. And the answer is never. They've never run a counter commercial, so they just ceded the territory to the attorneys over the last 30 years and then wonder why it's so dimly viewed. It's like, well, you gave it away. So we wanted to go back and say, listen, you are important. And guess what? I hate to sound cheesy, but we love you too. And we want to see you back to work. And we want your family made whole. We want this, work comp's a great thing. What that guy said is he's full of bull. Have you ever seen an insurance product outside of work comp that has no limit to it? I mean, work comp's limitless. It pays lost wages. The employer pays for it just in case you get hurt. There's no co-pays. I mean, this is great. But why do we not say that? We just don't. And everybody's like, oh gosh, I hope they don't run it up too high. I don't want my premiums to go up. It's like, no, that's not how this works. If you would just give them what's right and do what's right instantly, you're always going to get a better result because guess what? Most people are not acting in bad faith. Most of these people do want to come back to work and they want their full wages and they just want to be back to what they were doing. They want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise again. But we treat them like everybody's out there trying to screw the system, and it's just not how it really works.
I want to do a standing ovation, and I've never worked in work comp. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
What about agents and brokers? So, right, people that in the seat that you used to occupy. What if the carriers that I'm working with are not yet using Zenjuries? Can you help me out, or is the only thing I can do to start going to the agency meetings at the carrier and start bugging them to use Zenjuries?
No, it's a good question. So actually, we in Zenjuries, behind our four walls, we have what's called verticals. So we sell to different verticals. And the very first one is the agency vertical. So we do support agents and brokers. You know why? Other than the fact that they're near and dear to my heart, and I am one. I'm a recovering agent at this stage in my life. But, we're the ones that are in the trench every day. We're the ones that are the face of whatever carrier we're selling, and so we'll be the one on the firing line when things go bad, and we'll be probably the last ones to get patted on the back if things go good. The agents have to work their butts off to do this stuff. And if you ever think about, they used to torture me to think about the agent plant because agents are really an army of free labor. They don't get paid a penny unless they sell something to somebody. So I always think good for the agents because you're working the hardest for the least and you get 1% of 1%. That's how it works. But the agents, God bless them, they're out here giving their last mite and they're trying to solve problems, most of them. Now you have your traditional sales guy out here, but those are kind of turning into the outliers because you got to get good now. In this day and age, you got to know what you're selling. You have to know about workers' comp inside and out. A lot of these people sit in courtrooms and see how the verdicts go. I mean, these are very invested people. So we do help the agents and brokers. We charge them the least. We sell it to them in a very reduced fashion to where they can buy it in two ways. Number one, they can buy it in an a la carte kind of sliding scale where it's just a very small percent of whatever the premium is. And the other one, and the only problem with that model is for the agents that are going to use it a lot, it's hard to budget that. And so a lot of these agencies need a budgetable number. And so the second option we do for agencies is a capacity. So we'll sell them like 3 million, 6 million, 10 million, 20 million, however much capacity of work comp you want. And we'll sell that to them so they can put as many clients as they want inside of that capacity number. So it just makes it easy for them to use it. So here's something I haven't told you, Tony. Our platform and our app is, I'm not going to lie, it's really cool. It's really, really good. Very, very user-friendly, which is the key to our success. But that's not the only thing we sell. Like with our app, we sell human beings. And I know that sounds crazy, but we literally sell users with the product. And so what does that mean? Well, if you think back to what I said earlier, most problems out here, especially in the agency plant, is bandwidth. Not a lot of people, the more successful they are at sales, the less time they have and energy and people to throw at work comp claims. And so it becomes hard for them to deliver the promises they're making at sale. That's a problem because that can get you fired at renewal. So what Zenjuries does, we onboard all the clients for them, all the policyholders. We make sure they know how to use the platform. We assign almost like an adjuster, a Zen Pro to every claim. So our guy or our lady is always helping the client through the work comp claim, like a concierge white glove type of how can I help you today. They'll get loss runs, bring them back. They'll make sure they know the loss costs. They'll make sure the injured employee is going to the appointment. They'll make sure we know what the outcome of the appointment. That is inclusive of everything we do. So it makes the agencies who struggle at being able to follow through daily on every claim, it gives them an army of laborers. That's our people attached to the claims and just crush it. So the agency, for the first time ever, can send their producers out there to kill it and promise that, hey, when you have a work comp claim, you're going to get an experience like you've never had before. And guess who's going to deliver that for them and with them? Zenjuries. We're going to stand in the gap. We're going to get in the trench. We're going to make sure we do the heavy lifting. We're the Sherpas of the work comp hike. So it's a differentiator in a whole new way.
Amazing, 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 awesome. All right, that was a lot. My brain is a bit overwhelmed since I don't come from the work space. For those that want to learn more, well, when this goes live, I will tag you and I will tag Zenjuries on LinkedIn. For the listeners, what's the best way to get a demo? What's the best way to start the conversation to see if it makes sense to partner with you guys?
Yeah, that's awesome. So on our website, it's just zenjuries.com. There's a place where you can book a demo. It also has the pricing laid out for the agencies. If you're a self-insured group, if you're a captive, we work with all those too. We work with MGAs, we work with carriers. We can work with anybody in the work comp space. I mean, absolutely anybody that wants to deliver a new and best in class. And it's honestly life-changing because I'm going to tell you, when I first developed this, I really thought I'd be working a lot on the computer. It got to the point in almost days, I only did it on my phone because it was just so easy to pull out your phone and do this. But if you go to zenjuries.com, we'll give you a demo of exactly how this works. So you won't have to wonder, how in the world does this work? Because that's important. But I will tell you this, anybody listening, it will literally change your work comp life. And you'll wonder, where in the world has this been? So it's exciting. It truly is new. I would love to compare it to something like, hey, Zenjuries is like blah, but there is nothing like us. We're not like a REMIS system. We're not competing in all that kind of minutia. We're literally out there in the heart of the employee, in the heart of the employer. We're in their, we're in their space, just helping them through this very hard time. And it is a giant differentiator when it comes to real results. We're not a quarterly claim review. We're none of all that static stuff. We're literally there, boots on the ground during the claim. And it's a pretty special thing to watch. So I hope everybody will come take a look at it.
Thing of beauty. Thing of beauty. Thank you so much for spending your time today with me. Look forward to see you guys continue to grow. I always say this. I am very partial towards insurtechs founded by a practitioner who saw a problem and jumped in to fix it, rather than a technologist who had technology and tried to find a way to apply it to insurance. So big fan of this approach. But by the way, I'm just curious, kind of late in the game to ask, but did you go through broker tech or did you go through any sort of accelerator to build this thing?
No, isn't it funny? You remember when I said I was from Georgia? So I'm really just a dumb guy from South Carolina now, but I didn't know any of that stuff. We just kind of were out to help our own clients, and
Well, and you were also early. That's the other thing. You
we
started
were.
this in 2015, and InsurTech was just being born.
Yeah, and I thought the word was cool. Now the word's kind of taboo, so you have to be careful who you tell your insure tech to. But I want to say one thing too, Tony. Like I really, I'm sure all your listeners know because they follow you, but the work that you're doing, like I see you just put in some very hard work, and I can't tell you how much it means to me because I'm not there, but you kind of stand in the gap for us, and you really do work hard to make sure that people are connecting. And it's not easy. I can't imagine how hard you work at it, but I know it's really hard because I see your content. It's always really good. I always see a smile on your face when you're doing it, but you encourage people like me and don't even know it. So thank you very much for what you do
Thank you.
as well.
I I I I suspect that very similar to you. I'm very passionate about what I do and just have a lot of fun doing it. The funny thing is, the podcast ran for like 350 episodes before we figured out any sort of anything close to a business model. It's just a passion project, and yeah, I have so much fun doing what I do and playing this very unique role that I play in the industry, and I'm very very thankful that I found my place in what we do, because it's a really random weird place where I don't have to execute on anything. I kind of just chat with people all over the country about insurtech and insurance, and somehow eke out a living from it. So it's a lot of thank you. It's a lot of fun. Again,
It
thank you so much
shows
for
that
your
you're
time today.
passionate about it. It's really cool, man.
Awesome. Thank you.